Good evening, everyone. This is Jen and İskit, and you are watching What's New, What's News. Yes, in today's headlines and over the past 3 days, actually, we are closely following the tensions between Iran and Israel because since the beginning of April, actually, the tensions escalating in between these countries, and 2 days ago, almost 3 days ago, Iran attacked Israel with the bombings, and we will discuss this situation, and also we will dive into the Turkey's relations. What will be the role in Turkey? How will Turkey be impacted by these tensions, and so on and so forth? So I don't want to wait you that much. I have a distinguished guest, Hakan Güneş. He is an expert in international relations, and over the 8 years, 10 years, he is specifically working on Iran relations. So let me invite him. Welcome, Mr. Güneş. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. So energetic start you made.
Thank you so much for joining me today's discussion, and we have a lot to talk, and all the world is discussing this kind of topics, but we will kind of specify what will be especially Turkey's role on these tensions as well. But I would like to ask first, why Israel attacked Iran embassy in Syria? What was the reason behind it, and how these events developed afterwards?
Well, actually, maybe we just need to clarify first the very background of those tensions and escalations. Well, Iran and United States and Israel in that line are at war in the last 44, 48 years. To be more specific, since the hostage crisis in Tehran after the Islamic Revolution or the revolution of 1979, when a group of students take the US embassy members as hostage. And the crisis continued like 444 days. And since then, the US and Iran relations, I mean, with the new regime in Iran, never became good enough to have normal relations. And it, in every step, it deteriorated and went to a more negative direction. And it just not went to a negative direction, but it also flourished to all the areas, including Africa, including all space, and well, and of course, more importantly, in almost all Middle Eastern countries became a theater for this war, for this conflict between Israel plus West, or United States plus Israel West versus Iran. So first of all, we should remember they are at war, almost at war, well, or semi-war, to be more technically specific, in the last 45 years. The first thing that we should keep in mind is that, okay? So within that, okay, so there's nothing, I mean, the latest attack to the consulate section of the Damascus embassy of Iran is not a surprising thing, but it is a surprising thing. I mean, an attack by Israel to an Iranian target or Iranian asset or Iranian let's say institution is not surprising. But what is surprising, what is shocking for the general audience is to attack an diplomatic mission, which should be keep from any kind of conflict, because there must be the immunity of the diplomatic missions. And according to any international law, any attack, any form of attack, not only direct military attack, but any form of attack is outlawed, is illegitimate, is forbidden. And Israel broke this law not maybe for the first time, but at such a level. Okay, the Iranians broke this law, this international law, by taking hostage of the U.S. Embassy diplomats in Tehran in '79. But what Israel did in Damascus is a direct attack. So it is beyond any international law. For that reason, I mean, well, I rather call this act of Iran as a retaliation instead of attack. Well, militarily, technically, it's an attack, but politically and diplomatically, this is a retaliation. So if we frame this event as a retaliation, then it should stop at some point, and I believe it will stop for a while. But again, we should remember the background, the scene. This is all happening in an ongoing war. So which is a record of 45 years at least.
45 years, yes.
Yeah.
Iran's response was straightforward, even though they warned 72 hours before the attack that they mentioned that they're planning an attack. And in Turkey, we should inform maybe our audience about that. In Turkey, it is kind of the discussion is moving from like a theater scene that all the experts, all the international relations experts saying this is a theater scene, that they warned it before and then they attacked Israel, etc., etc. But what actually happens? Because I don't agree this kind of examples of seeing this matter, because this is very severe, and also this is kind of maybe in other way, maybe a strategy from Iran to Israel, maybe trying something, maybe trying to find out what is the weakest link for Israel. What's your comments on that?
Well, if this is a theater, then we should call the longest theater of the history ever. 45 years old theater. I mean, how could we call such a tensious relation as a theater? I mean, they are at war, or a semi-war, an indirect war in the last 40 plus years. So nothing is a theater between Israel and Iran. No matter this, no matter the last one, the Israeli Iranian retaliation or any other event. Nothing is game there. Nothing is theater. Neither what the Iranians did or the Israelis. I mean, this is not a game. This is a full conflict of 45 years. And at this level, this part is a very a turning point, probably, that we'll see in the future and understand that was the turning point. To just remind the audience, I would like to say, okay, first, that remember how it started and what dimensions this conflict has. So the hostage crisis in Iran after the revolution was the beginning of this tension. The Westerners and Israelis were not expecting anything against the Western regimes from Khomeini. They believed that he would be a religious person who could build a regime quite in line with the Western norms and standards and policies. But it didn't happen. That was a surprising, one of the biggest miscalculations in the history. And then anyway, so they supported indirectly Saddam to attack Iran, and which was mainly orchestrated by United States and France, and support Israel and others. And then what was the Iranian response was mainly to build an armed group which is Hezbollah in the southern part of Lebanon. And then they supported all the groups in Iraq and in Syria, and then lately in Yemen and in many parts of the world. So the war area is quite a waste geography. Okay, so the war is continuing on those proxies in a very wide geography, and for the last 10 years, we may say, or 15 at least, the responses, retaliations, attacks mainly happen indirectly through Hezbollah, through Hashd Shabi, through Fatimiyun, through Mossad assassinations whatsoever. Okay, not directly from the legal territories of one state to the territories of the other state. That didn't happen, but except 3 days ago. I mean, yeah. The latest retaliation was quite different in kind. That was, in any sense, a very serious thing. Normally, I mean, we're living in a very interesting time. I mean, normally, if a state attacks to another state's territory, that just marks the beginning of a war. But that is not a war exactly, a retaliation, a proportionate attack whatsoever. So it's really interesting. We don't have many examples in the history. So that's something we should, carefully examine, observe, and try to understand what is going to come next. That's not something that we have every day or many examples in the history. That's something quite phenomenal and quite interesting and surprising.
Well, maybe we can discuss what was the intent of specifically attacking Israel's specific, points. Because
actually, many scholars and journalists argued that it was mainly Netanyahu's miscalculation or Netanyahu's intention to drag the United States into the war, into the fight against Iran and its allies. That was the first explanation, and secondly, as a complementary, supplementary explanation, that again, it was Netanyahu's operation to divert the attentions from Gaza, where he's failing, where his efforts are not going very successful. I mean, I think they are progressing in their bloody war and genocide, unfortunately, but it was not seen enough in technical terms, maybe, by the Israeli politicians who are opposing to Netanyahu. So that was a move to keep his seat in the Israeli Game of Thrones. I do agree with those explanations. I mean, the Gaza and to take more support from the United States were probably the main aim, but that was a very risky decision to attack another countries, no matter which country. To attack another country's diplomatic mission was a very risky decision, and he did it. Well, because we are living in an age where nobody is questioned for their acts, if they are from the western part of the world. Yeah.
Yes. Another point is now everyone is just curious how will Israel respond for this retaliation, and since yesterday actually everyone is waiting an attack coming from Israel to Iran, but nobody can foresee what will be the next step. But today there is a breaking news that Israel actually made a statement that they killed an Hezbollah commander from Lebanese. Maybe that is another point, maybe another move. We don't know it yet, but since last night, everyone is waiting for an attack. What will be their step, you think?
Well, there are different interpretations of that new retaliation announcement of the Israel. One of the former intelligence officers talked to an Indian TV channel just a few hours ago, and she said, for example, the retaliation could take various forms. So that means it could, be done could be carried out by Mossad agents, as they did, like killing the nuclear physicians, the scientists who are working in the nuclear program of Iran, or sabotaging some of the Iranian important institutions and military facilities, etc. Well, it could be. They are indeed very, very creative. I mean, Israel is one of the greatest in that sense, greatest and successful country in sabotaging, in secret operations, etc. in their intelligence capability. They are not as strong as they were like in 60s and 70s, but still they have this capability and they could do something like that. But this is not something, well, those are interpretations of this retaliation form. So not by me, but by some of the, pro-government former officers, some diplomatic sources are, reinterpreting this retaliation form. But if this is going to be a retaliation, then it should be a proportionate one, which means it should be in a very a direct form, just like the Israelis did, from the Israeli soil to the Iranian soil. So I don't expect that will happen. I mean, this is just a quick, that is not an international, this is the target of this announcement by Netanyahu or the chief of staff of Israel is not aiming at to have an effect on Iranians, but rather to the domestic audience. So there is a big challenge by the Israeli opposition to the Netanyahu and his administration, his government. So he just like to calm down, most probably. But if you ask, well, this is just conjectural. Just let's say seasonal part of the story. What would be the Israeli retaliation in general? Because they are encircled by several proxy groups which are gaining more and more power and have the capability to attack through all, with the full capacities of their arsenals of missiles. And can you imagine like what the Hamas did in autumn when in this Al-Aqsa flood operation? Just multiply it with the Fatimi group in Syria and then Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they have a huge arsenal. And every day they are developing their missile capacities and technologies. Probably that could not, that's an existential threat to Israel. But, well, I think they are at a very interesting point, at a very decisive moment. They are working on an air defense system, which is called not the Iron Dome, but the latest one that is under development is the Iron Beam, which is based on high voltage electric laser, very low cost defense system. If they succeed to make it work soon, well, that means all those military capabilities of the Iranian proxies will be just futile and or neutralized. So that would be militarily the end of story for an existential threat to Israel. We'll see that. There are some technical points in that, but I don't like to, spend much of our time for those technicalities. But for the moment, well, they are very close to this existential threat, the very being of it. So they have the nuclear deterrence a card. They have the US card with all those capabilities. And they have, well, this new project of the the Iron Beam, not Iron Dome, but Iron Beam project. So those are their plans. Once they achieve to have all of them together, then they will they will act more confidently, and we'll see. But in any case, that is, I mean, is the Israeli communities, I mean, Israeli population, ready to live um, under constant war conditions? That is the big question. They are more and more people are leaving, and they feel an existential threat to their very state there. That's what they feel right now. And if, well, in that sense, the Hamas attack with a very, very high cost, and Iranian attack, retaliation, had a very negative effect. So on Israeli citizens. So in that sense, they are successful. I would rather prefer, I mean, I try to find a better term for that. I mean, successful, nothing is successful or good or bad in the wars. I mean, we should, but I don't have any other concept for that. So relatively from the Iranian perspective or Palestinian perspective, that those attacks are successful. And they have a very negative effect. But, well, again, the Israelis, I mean, this retaliation of the Iran by drones and missiles, well, partially the Israeli defense system this time worked well, not at 99% level success rate, but, well, 92, 94, depending on the sources of the military experts. Well, still, that's a relatively successful mechanism, and well, it made the politicians and the decision makers more confident on their air defense system. But yet, this is not the wider public is not sharing the same ideas. They don't have the same feelings. Yeah.
Another point, another discussion about this kind of retaliation. Some of the experts are expecting, even though Iran was clear yesterday, if Israel attempt to attack them or retaliate them like that, they will respond, they said. But many of experts are expecting Iran not to respond and just stay calm afterwards. They will just see, okay, this is kind of a retaliation, that's fine. We don't want any kind of war, any kind of scene like that, and they won't respond. What is your point of view on that?
Well, if Israel attacks to Iran directly, is that the question? I just
yes.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, once such a game starts, well, it will create its own consequences, and Iran will respond. But the question is whether the sides will escalate or de-escalate. That's the question. So what, of course, Israel will, I mean, they are at war in the last 45 years. So every day they will kill some commanders. They will, send some rockets. They would just do some acts of war and clash and violence. That's what they are doing in the last 50 years. So the question is whether they will whether they will go to the upper level. That's the question. Okay, so whether Israel's response will be more forceful, more massive then the Iranian retaliation to Israel. So this is the question. If not, well, then that would be the de-escalation. I mean, because they are fighting each other every day. Yeah.
I see. Well, there is another point, of course. How will US approach? I mean, they're now kind of watching it.
Yeah.
They're backing Israel for sure, but at the same time, it seems like, because this is like before the election in the US is coming, Biden's chair is a little bit shaking now because Trump is on the table now as well. So how will they approach backing Israel in this matter if the tensions escalate?
Well, I mean, they made their position very clear that they will defend Israel if attacked by any country. And they did it, by the way, in the latest Iranian retaliation or missile attack to Israel. It was mainly the US and their military and air defense and air force systems and bases that prevented many of those missile. And they just repeated, underlined that they will do so in the future. But they added, but they will not support. They're not supporting any act of Israeli direct attack to Iran. So, and how they formulated? Well, this speaker formulated that the United States will not support any act of Israel to widen the war in the region. That's the context. I mean, the phrases that they have used in their speech, in their statements. So they made it clear that they do not want Israel to escalate the ongoing tension or problem. So to stop at that point and not to have much escalating steps. Yeah. But well, it might differ. I mean, we'll see. I mean, what Trump will bring, we don't know this yet.
Well, yeah, this is another thing, because there is a possibility, even though he faced a trial yesterday, he appeared in the court, but there are some controversial discussions on that as well. But there is a possibility that Trump can be the president of the USA again, and that time, of course, all the dynamics will change probably, because he was clear backing Israel and wanting another war against Iran or any kinds. So we will see. Turkey, on the other hand, another subject to talk, because we are geographically, unfortunately, we cannot run away from any kind of conflict.
Middle Eastern conflicts.
One part is Syria, one part is Iraq, one part is Iran. And we are very close to Israel, etc., etc. How will be the impact? What implications do these developments have for Turkey's foreign policy and regional security?
Well, Turkey likes to play a mediation role in this conflict, but for the existence or the role of a mediation or mediator, you need a ground for mediation for both sides of the conflict. There is no such ground. I mean, neither Hamas nor Israeli government wants a peace or a roadmap for a peace. So there is no place for any kind of mediation, unfortunately. But in general, of course, there is everybody knows, both the experts and ordinary citizens know how to build the peace. We know how to build the peace. I mean, we don't need to be an expert. But unfortunately, those actors who are influential in two space, in Gaza and in Israel, they're not the ones that could make the peace. And the other actors in the region, including Turkey, so I will not go far from your questions center. So Turkey and Turkey. Yeah, I still didn't use to this new.
No, neither I. Still Turkey,
Yeah.
Turkey.
Yeah. Okay. So both of them is okay.
Both of them are acceptable now.
Yeah. Turkey. So Turkey and the other countries in the region, they are, of course, important actors, but could not change the game since the rule makers are not in a point to make a peace deal. So they could, I mean, what they could do is quite limited. But on the other hand, there is another aspect that I would like to highlight, Jaran. I mean, we have not a classical center-right government in Turkey. It's a pro-Islamist, at least, government, and always claimed to be the leader of the Ummah, which means the Muslims of the world. So such world leader, the leader of the Muslims. So representing the Muslim communities no matter whether they live in Pakistan, in Kashmir, Indonesia, or a minority in the United States of Muslim, no matter, or Palestinian. And Palestine is the most symbolic cause or event in the Muslim world. Not only, of course, Muslim world, for any oppressed nation, I mean, or cause. Palestine was quite important for the communists, for the socialists as well, but for the Islamists as well. And as a pro-Islamist, or let's say a moderate Islamist leadership, Erdogan's big dilemma is to seek a reconciliation with the Western world on several areas, and at the same time to claim the leadership of the of the Muslims, and to have a very clear position on Palestinian issue. And well, he's just failing in any front. Remember, many of our audience probably will remember 1 minute case. Just what he did was not sending the missiles just as Iranians did. Okay, so just remember, he in an economic forum conference in Davos in Switzerland, he just blamed or accused or whatever, or just named the Israeli president as the killer of the kids, of the children. So he just stopped his speech and said, 1 minute, you are the killer, etc. Okay, so which is the incident is called as the 1 minute incident event. Okay, so compare this with what Iran is doing for Palestine. Okay, just compare it. Okay, even that 1 minute was celebrated all over the world, including the Palestinian refugee camps in Israel. I mean in West Bank, in Lebanon, everywhere. They had the Erdogan posters. What he did was just to say 1 minute, stop talking. That was all. But just compare it with the Iranians on daily basis, providing intelligence, finance, and arms to the Palestinians. Okay, so why I'm talking about that, just to compare it. That's a leadership competition between Turkey, Iran, and all the other competitors for the claim, for the leadership for the Muslims. And Turkey, I mean, Erdogan as a person, most important, not Turkey. Turkey would never claim as a secular state such a position. Always been, until Erdogan, being an important representative, a modern representative of the third world, but not specifically the Muslims. Anyway, his very project of the leader of the Ummah, the Islamic nation, also failed. That's why the pro-government sources, the pro-government media, is just claiming that what Iran did was not something serious, was a game, was a theater. It is the reason because they are losing their moral grounds. Okay, because they, Palestine is something sacred, holy. So they, for an Islamist, you cannot just close your eyes, and they close their eyes anyway. So from this geopolitical regional rivalry point of view, Turkey, I mean not Turkey again, Erdogan is losing his authority over the audience, over the public of the region. Okay. And for the country, well, nothing will negatively or positively happen because, well, like any other country, Turkey, besides Erdogan, no matter which government we will have or we have, I mean, well, we can do some really very limited things. Well, the only thing that maybe international community could do is the boycott, the investment and sanctions movement, BDS movement, where it was successfully applied in the South African case, where they had an apartheid regime. When the international community, so the country states, boycotted South African regime, and they had to accept the end of the apartheid regime in South Africa. And what the BDS movement is proposing is that all the countries, if all the countries, all the public supports this idea internationally, when then Israel has to stop and at least retreat to its borders of 67. So before the occupation of the West Bank and the other regions of Palestine. So that could just be a beginning of a peace that could help to bring peace, I may say. And Turkey could support this. Well, the public is ready to support this idea, but not the government. But maybe the government will have such a step. We'll see. I'm not sure whether they will take such a step, because at the same time, the Turkish economy is not in its best form. So they need the Western economic support, and so they have to balance it. We'll see what will happen to Turkish foreign policy's miserable conditions. We'll see that. Yeah.
Yeah, another one was actually, we're coming to an end now, but my last question is about actually what Turkey did. Turkey's trade relations with Israel led to restrictions and imposed by Ministry of Trade. However, we have a very stunning journalism example now, because Metin Cihan, who is an exiled journalist, revealed some sources that actually some trade relations that Turkey involved in with Israel. This is kind of what I see. This is kind of balancing the relations, either showing that we are in solidarity with Palestine, but on the other hand, of course, because economically we are not in a good stage, and also we have trade relations with Israel, obviously we have, but on the other hand, we put some restrictions to make it a little bit calm down in the across the country. How do you evaluate that last recent move coming from Turkey to Israel?
Well, I think they will. This is not at the focal point of the international community or the Israelis. They have other rather more serious problems, like Iran and Gaza and others. So this is not. This is something that they will negotiate later. And well, many well, they have the network of a web of businessmen and politicians. They already talk about this, and what the Israelis think is that this is something that Turkish government forced to do. So this is not something that they really want to do. So they just accept their excuses, and they know how to just create some backdoors to surpass or to continue the trade on. So through re-exports through the Slovenian ports, Metin Cihan already mentioned about that as well. So there are other ways to carry on, to continue Turkish trade to Israel through re-exports or exporting to like the Cyprus, Egypt, this and that port, and then still at the end of the day having the profit and doing your business. So they will do that, and Israelis know that. So that is not a big tension between Israeli and Turkish governments because of those realities. That is not a real sanction yet, but that's a step. That's something, and yeah, that's something. Yeah. So I mean, the Turkish public finally showed its power to the government, and it helped, I believe, to the international community to see that there could be peaceful ways to support the Palestinian people through sanctions, for example, not only through missiles and drones and wars and conflict and violence. There are other ways to achieve peace in Palestine. Indeed, I believe, I mean, there is no military way to defeat the Israelis. It could be done through peaceful means to make them accept. And there is a important Israeli anti-war community in Israel. And ours, just before the Iranian retaliation, they were some tens of thousands of people in the street, in the squares, protesting Netanyahu's policies. So I believe that this peaceful approaches, civil movements is the only option to achieve peace in Palestine. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Güneş. Is there anything you would like to add before we close this discussion?
No, thank you for having me here, and it was quite pleasure to try to answer to your questions, and I hope it helped for the international audience to grasp or to understand the issue from a different perspective. I hope it helped this. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure it helped, and hopefully they will at least see another aspect coming from one part from Middle East, one part from European side. So coming from Turkey is important. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that you spare your time with me, join my discussion today. Well, yes, we spoke about the dynamics and how will impact this tensions between Iran and Israel. We will see coming days. It will indicate what will happen next and how will this impact not only Israel, not only Iran, also the Middle East, because it's all connected and it's a very complex subject to discuss because there's behind there's a huge history, more than 4 decades. So we will follow it closely, and there will be other discussions to talk about. Till then, our next session will be on Friday, and this time we will discuss AIs, artificial intelligence, this is another maybe frightening, maybe inspiring topic to talk about, and lecturer Can Ertuğ will join us that day. Till then, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.